Welcome to the FIH Hockey Pro League show, where today I'm joined by two of the show's regular stars, real experts in the game, South Africa's legendary Olympian Marsha Cox and India's equally legendary Olympian and coaching guru, Cedric D'Souza. So hi Marsha, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me again on the show.
It's great to see you. And Cedric, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. It's good to see Marsha. We never worked together, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, fantastic. We also got a special guest dropping in on us. Canada's Alison Lee has joined us almost minutes after she returned from Santiago in Chile, where Canada won bronze. But looking at you at the moment, Ali, you're definitely not in the sunshine of Santiago, are you?
Nope, I just got back to Toronto, so we've got lots of snow out here and probably a over 30-degree temperature change in the last 2 days. So.
All right. I was about to say I was jealous of all that snow, but actually thinking about the temperature drop, that's going to be quite tough. We have a wealth of hockey to discuss today, following a frenetic month of hockey action, which started in Accra, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, and is continuing in 2 days in Valencia. But first of all, I'd like to come to Ali. Bronze medal at the Pan Am Cup, which is fantastic, but perhaps the bonus on top of that, obviously, is that Canada now qualify for the World Cup taking place in Spain and Netherlands later this year. What on earth are your thoughts right now?
We are just over the moon. Like, the Canadian women's team hasn't qualified since before I was born. So for us to qualify is massive for our not only our country, but the sport in general in our country. So we are like, most of us are like, is this real? Like, we came back to wherever we are in Canada. We're spread out now across. We've got a month off, but we're all like, someone pitch me. Are we dreaming?
Yeah, I can absolutely imagine. I was going to ask Marsha and Cedric just quickly on that. You've both qualified in the past for tournaments where it's perhaps been a little bit of an eye-opener. My gosh, we're actually going to an Olympics or we're going to a World Cup. What's your advice to Ali and her team now? How do they take in this information, and what sort of things should they be doing to make sure that they're mentally as much as physically ready for the challenge ahead? Marsha, I'll come to you first on that.
I think that firstly, congratulations, Ellie. I think that is absolutely fantastic. It's I think something that's been on the horizon for Canadian women's hockey for a while, and you guys have just fallen short, unluckily, for a few years in the past. But it's fantastic to see that you guys will be there this year, and I'm really looking forward to watching you guys play, because, like I said, we've played against you guys lots in Commonwealth games, and we know what you guys are capable of. So it's fantastic that you'll get the opportunity to do it at a World Cup. I think on Sarah's question with the advice, there's one thing that I think is really important, and that's to remind your team and keep reminding your team that you deserve your spot. You've worked really hard for it, and the job isn't done. That's just the first step. But a World Cup, I think the pressure is on everybody equally. And sometimes we forget that, and we think that there's a bit of imbalance with, but every single team has the exact same amount of pressure. You start the tournament on 0 points, and you play one game at a time. There's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser, but it's about the team who plays just that one game at a time, and that those, like, the phase controls phases of games. And we've seen massive surprises in the past that we know, debutantes at World Cups finishing on podiums. So it's not to say don't dream big, but I think just remember that every team starts the tournament in the exact same position on 0 points.
Brilliant. Have you got anything to add to that, Cedric, those wise words?
Oh my God, she took all the points. So, Ali, first of all, euphoria, enjoy it. That's the first thing, okay? And then always remember, when you're in life, basically, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. So when you're in that World Cup, you're equal to everybody else. And you go out there and prove your mettle. It's now work. Work starts now, yes, and get ready right through till the World Cup. I wish you well.
We'll be following you with real interest. If you can stick around, Ali, we've got a few more questions to ask you, but if you need to, go and get a hot drink while we're just chatting, feel free as well. Marsha, let's go to a warm place now. Let's go to Accra in Ghana. We spoke about South Africa's victory and subsequent World Cup qualification in the African Cup of Nations last week, a little bit with John Wyatt and AD Locke. But as a South African, and more widely as an African, what are your thoughts on the competition and the direction of travel for hockey on the continent at the moment?
Well, I think that what's interesting to see is still the big gap between men and women's competition in Africa. You see a big step up on the men's side across Africa. You saw, and we've seen it in the past as well. We know that traditionally countries like, of course, Egypt are always a tough one for our South African men. And then you see Kenya and Namibia and Zimbabwe often performing quite well, and then again you see them step up, and as Ghana as well, you know.
Yeah.
So we saw some really interesting results in the men's competition, but I think on the women's side there's still a long way to go in creating an even playing field, I think, across all the nations. It would be nice to see just as fast progress made in women's hockey as there is being made in men's hockey. Having said that, though, I think you know, compliments to both our men and women's teams for qualifying, doing the job that they needed to do. It's not always easy conditions to play in. We heard like that the pitch was quite tricky. That can add a huge elements of surprise to your performance. But I think that they went in with knowing what the job was, and they did it, and they got their tickets to the World Cup. So compliments to them, and I think it's well deserved. But in the competition in Africa, it would be nice to see more improvement made on women's hockey side.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be talking obviously about the Pro League later, but just very quickly, I mean, South African men are now going to get this huge boost in terms of playing opportunities, aren't they? Which in some way, I mean, it's obviously great for South Africa, but it might open that gap a little bit more again because they're getting that extra little bit of exposure to international hockey, I guess.
Yes and no, because what was interesting to see is that with the lack of competition, our men's team actually had more practice games against our African neighbors. So they did have some practice games against Namibia, and I imagine Egypt are going to want to compete against South Africa more often. So yes, on one hand, you could assume that, but I think if they continue to do what they've done and invest more time in the practice games that they can have within the African continents, then yeah, I think it'll just keep the rest of the African teams also quite sharp and ready for tough competition.
Yeah, and I guess as well, I mean, other teams will be looking to have competition against neighbouring nations when they're on the way to play South Africa as well, which will be great.
You know,
Cedric,
just to take on Talali something, you know, just look at the final of the men in the African Nations Cup, which is basically South Africa versus Egypt. South Africa's ranked 10th in the world, and Egypt 21 in the world. And the score was 1-1 with a shootout victory. So you can go into the World Cup, Ali, and know that no matter who is there, whatever the rankings are, you got to give it your best and let anybody come on. So just remember, forget about rankings. It's a question of performance on that given day.
Yeah,
okay.
You're so right.
Vote for the old man.
So, Cedric, let's stick with you for a minute. The Asia Cup. When you and I spoke ahead of the Asia Cup, we predicted the top 4 finishers, and I mean, I think probably anybody the world over would have done, but they didn't quite finish in the order we were perhaps expecting. So, just briefly, what are your thoughts on that tournament, and how surprised were you by Korea, or weren't you surprised by Korea?
Well, you know, but Korea has won it the maximum amount of times, and if you recall, we talked about Japan being a team which is very effective. They don't create many chances, but when they do, they make it count. You know, and that's exactly what happened to Japan. They won this tournament. Okay, nobody gave them a chance in terms of winning it. They would definitely qualify, and I went on record saying that India was just far too strong, and I had to bite the bullet. You know, basically, in the end, it was India got third. But it was Japan who beat China 2-1 in that game. And I spoke with their coach, and he said they were lucky against China on that day. But now they're brimming with confidence. They're going forward, having qualified for the World Cup. India, I think, didn't play as to the level that she's capable of in terms of converting the opportunity that she created. Okay, and Korea is always a team which can take you to the last point, because they'll run you ragged. They're strong on the ball. They're strong on, and basically they go good man-to-man marking and great on the break. So you can never put Korea down. You can never know what's going to happen till the last moments. So from an overall perspective, the top 4 teams definitely played to the cards. But in terms of ranking, we didn't think that it would be Japan 1, Korea 2, India 3, and China 4.
No, and particularly not on current form as well. I mean, India have been looking very, very good, haven't they? We're coming back to India, obviously, in a minute, and China. But Ali, there you were in Santiago, and I mean, obviously, 99% of your thoughts were on Canada and what you were doing as a team. But a little bit of you must have been very, very conscious and very aware of what was happening to both Chile men and Chile women. I mean, they made history, didn't they? What was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, playing live in Chile was amazing. Like their fans, when we were playing the bronze medal game, when Chile walked in, the whole stadium erupted. Like they were lucky to be able to have fans at the event. And just being in the atmosphere, we were kind of glad we weren't playing Chile in that bronze game because their fans backed them the whole way. And even watching their semifinal against the US, it was just like they are fully backed by their country and their federation. And it's really nice to see them make those strides.
And I mean, your own progress through the tournament, you had that faltering start against the USA, didn't you? I mean, that obviously meant that you ended up playing Argentina in the semi-final. Based on what you've just said, who would you rather have played, Argentina or Chile? Because it could have been the other way around, couldn't it? But if you're up against that host nation and that crowd, there's actually a real chance of an upset there, isn't there?
Yeah, I think when you're looking just at the talent on the teams and how they've done historically in their events, Chile would have been the team for us in the bronze if we were to take one. But their fans definitely was their 12th player. We say it a lot in sports up here, but the fans add that kind of give you the extra kind of jump that you need to give you that extra mile and push the extra 10 minutes or so. But any of those teams, like it was quite a close competition. We watched the final, Chile, Argentina, and until the 4th quarter, it was 2-2. And I think that just shows kind of the experience that Argentina has to pull through in the last quarter, but Chile put up a really, really good fight in that final game.
Yeah, I've realised as I asked what a stupid question it was. Who would you rather face, Argentina or Chile? But there you go. The other match.
I think another point is that the South American teams have played with a lot of passion. They come onto the pitch and there's so much of passion. Many times there's not much structure, but there's so much of passion on the ground. And it's just come on and you get lifted by the crowd and you do something which you don't think you can do. So that's really what happened to Chile. Nobody believed that both Chilean teams would qualify, and we definitely say Canada and USA over them. But then, as you say, you can take it from the alley again. Another point to prove. It just proved the point. Chile got through. So don't go with any inhibitions. Go there and play a heart out.
Yeah. You lost to, back to Ali again for a minute. You lost to USA in the pool matches, as we said. How much did that play on your mind going into that must-win game against the USA, which, I watched that match and you played such a solid, such a strong game against them? Yeah,
I think that once we got that second pool game and we lost to the US, it was kind of like we were hoping to win to get that bye to the semis. But once that happened, we moved on. It happened, it's over, it's in the past, and we just focused game by game. And I think us playing Argentina in the semi was really good because we played a really solid defensive game. And we read an article after the game saying, oh, Canada and the US must be so defeated going into their bronze game, but we were lifted by our semifinal game. So even though we did lose, we thought we put a really, really great effort in as a team. They got an empty net goal and their goals only came, like it was 1-0 going to the 4th quarter. And so we took that with us moving into that bronze medal game. And I think that really helped us come through. And it ended up, the last 2 games we played were just a really good, solid defensive effort on our half. Yeah, I agree. Marsha, where does this leave USA now? Because they've, a few years ago, the 2014 World Cup, for example, where you were, they really surprised the world, didn't they, with their performance? And yet they seem to have slid backwards quite rapidly. What's in store for USA now?
Well, I think if they go back to the drawing board, because you speak about their performance in 2014, which was a really nice surprise, I think, for the whole world. But if you just go a little bit further than that in 2012, where they played for last place at the Olympic Games in London, then it shows you that in a short space of time, they have the ability to turn things around. They have the resources. They do have a lot of power in-house in the States at the moment, both from their local talent as well as international talent on US soil at the moment, coaching at different levels, you know. So I think that if they just tap into their resources that they have and just regroup and think of their, you know, their lessons that they have also taught the world in the past, they probably can turn it around also in a short space of time. Just hopefully the calendars allow for them to close the gap that has now been created. But I definitely believe that they're a nation that can turn things around really quickly.
And they've got some amazing talent within the squad as well. I mean, they're a young side, aren't they? Obviously, and quite inexperienced. But I mean, Aaron Matson is just a class apart, I think, at times. So yeah, there's a lot to look. And obviously they've got the Pro League as well. You know, they've got Pro League fixtures, which is great. If we turn to the Pro League, turn to you, Cedric, first of all. So India didn't perform as we expected in the Asia Cup, but I think the two Pro League matches that we've just seen where India took on China, just to remind viewers, they beat China 7-1 in the first match, and they won the second match 2-1. Personally, I thought the better performance was the second match, even though there were fewer goals. But what are your thoughts, Cedric, on the India team and their performances in the Pro League?
I think between the Asia Cup and the Pro League, they did a bit of tweaking in terms of the high press and the conversion of penalty corners, which was important for them, which they didn't really do well enough in the Asia Cup. The other thing was that they're creating so many circle entries. And the question is, they're not actually converting those into goals. So or goal shots first before getting into goals. So basically the percentages have to improve. Okay, they did. The second game, as you say, was a much better game. And if you look at the goal that China scored against India, was a brilliant ball, which was a direct transfer from the left to the right, and ball slipped in. So basically, you look at it, I always say, when you're attacking in numbers, make sure that your back door is shut as much as possible. Otherwise, you know, you can be hit with the counter. And I think the important thing that India learns from this is that when she goes into the Pro League, it's not a question of winning, it's a question of getting this experience to take forward to the big ones. A lot of teams are going to be playing in this Pro League with the idea of blooding youngsters and making a base of a solid base into the future for the bigger tournaments of Pro. Yeah.
Is that what we think China are doing right now, Marsha? Are they bringing their youngsters through? Because I mean, that looked like quite an experienced team, but as we saw from the scoreline, they learnt quite quickly.
Yeah, well, that was one of my concerns, is that we often see inconsistent performances with China from year to year, and we know that in the phases of an Asian Cup, then a lot of focus would go onto the Asian Cup. So I also I wonder if these Pro League games post Asian Cup were sort of taking their foot off the pedal a little bit, knowing that they would have put full focus into their Asian Cup. Having said that as well, like Cedric said, the Pro League is going to be an opportunity for people to blood players and give young players an opportunity to get experience. So yeah, I do think it's going to be quite an interesting team to track as we progress in the Pro League. But I think it was a little bit disappointing to see that, yeah, for my feeling that they had taken the gas off a little bit for these Pro League games.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that, I mean, India took full advantage of. But what are we seeing, Cedric? Are we seeing an Indian side that is very cleverly blending Jannike's sort of Dutch discipline with the one-on-one skills of India? Are we seeing a perfect blend of hockey beginning to be developed there?
I think it'll take a little time in terms of executing her plans, but the important thing is that they are in the process. And if they think about the Pro League as a process of actually structuring the game into the plan, what they want to do in the future, the kind of style of play they want to do, that's the most important thing. I'm sure Jannike must have got really upset about the fact that the back door was open. She talked about the defensive structure. She did talk about that. She talked about winning the 1v1s. And India is strong in the 1v1s. She's got the skill factor in there. But, I'd like to talk about China for a second, if I may, is that, there was so many easy turnovers for the Chinese girls in the Pro League matches. It looked like they were tired. It looked like they were just not in it,
Mm.
And I think this will allow them to really refocus and at the points that they didn't do well enough in the qualifier, like not enough pressure on the ball, not enough strength on the ball, not enough getting into the opposition last quarter. All these points, how to get the ball in defense, the outletting. So these are the important things that they can really try out with the younger crop of players, so that when they come into the World Cup or the Olympics or the Asian Games next time, they're a solid unit. So I really believe that this Pro League, with so many players having retired after the Olympics, is really going to be an open Pro League where you'll find a lot of youngsters being given the opportunity to show their mettle and to face the rigors of international hockey. Let's
turn our attention to the matches that are coming up. We've got the Netherlands in action against Spain. I just wondered, Marsh, what are your thoughts on the Netherlands with the departure of Alison Annan? I mean, is it going to be business as usual? Is Jamie just going to carry on where Alison left off, or are we going to see some disruption to that squad?
I think it's going to be business as usual when it comes to a result-focused performance. I think that is just something that is ingrained within Dutch hockey. However, I think it is also going to be a case of whether they can keep disciplined. You often see with the change of coach that certain individuals are going to want to show themselves a little bit more to show what they can, maybe if they ever felt that they were inhibited before, or just the fact that it's refreshing and there's a new coach. I think that is quite normal. So it's going to be, I think, a case of individual disciplines and that would be put to the test of whether they work as a team or whether they start pulling apart individually, just purely from a fact of wanting to show yourself. I don't think that it is anything to do with the team structure or culture. I think that it's just going to be about individuals some individuals maybe seeing it as an opportunity to showcase themselves, and others that are going to just see it as business as usual and get on with the team focus.
I'd like to take on what she just said, which is really nice. I wish we'd worked earlier together, Marsha. With Jamie taking over for this interim period is very critical to understand the kind of classiness that happened between Jamie and Alison Annan. Jamie came into the Dutch team because of Alison, okay? And when she left and Jamie was offered it, he asked her, he talked to her, which is, for me, my hair standing now just thinking about. That's the solidarity between coaches. That's the greatness between people. And for me, he knows it's only temporary, but he still did it. And Alison said, yes, look at it from a point of view. She's not looking at it from that I brought you in and you're not going to be there kind of stuff. She brought in because she thought about Dutch hockey, for the interim period. So the first thing is, I think the players understand now that this is a continuation with Jamie's inputs, okay, which is really good. The Dutch team, everybody knows, is a super team, okay? They're number one in the world. They're strong in every department. And I think it's just a question of, as Marsha very rightly says, is which player is going to stand out a little bit more to show that a little bit more if she was inhibited in the past. I think at this stage, you'll see it, or you can gauge for yourself when the matches happen. But I think the most important thing, this team is a solid unit, and they'll go on like if Alison was there. Yeah.
Georgia Oliver, for the captain of Spain, said that she would love to play the Netherlands every single day of the week if she could. What are they going to get from this game, Marsha? It's obviously going to be a learning experience, everything else as well. Can they sneak a win, do you think?
Well, we've seen that anything can happen. Cedric mentioned it before, with his advice to Ali. So yeah, I think anything can happen. We know that the Spanish group also have got a lot of new faces. We know that they've also had a lot of changes within their group in the last couple of months. And sometimes change is fantastic, and sometimes change takes some time to adjust to. So I think for this Spanish team, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how impactful these changes are. In saying that, then, you know, both teams have quite a lot of changes in the last months, with the Dutch having changes on their staff and maybe some of the players, and then the Spanish having quite a big change within their group. So I think it's going to be a really interesting first quarter. I think both teams are going to be testing the waters. But I do think that the Spanish are always up for the challenge to play the Dutch. We know that a lot of the Spanish players have had experience of playing in the Dutch league in the past as well. So they also have some really nice insights to just not just the style of play, but also the mentality of the Dutch players. And I think that also prepares you in a different way for an international game. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Sorry, go on, Cedric.
Sorry. The other thing, the important thing to understand is that both teams have a lot of experienced players, and with the new ones coming in, the experienced players have to carry the younger ones on their shoulders, basically, and let them grow into it, and basically encourage them to make the mistakes. You know, I always say, make mistakes, rectify them, make new ones. They're human. Don't make the same ones. You know, basically just carry on. The experienced players will have to carry the youngsters on and let them grow in these matches. We know that the Dutch are super attacking play. They go directly at you. They're clinical in the circle. They got fantastic frontal movement, pressure on the ball. But the Spaniards have a great defensive unit. They have a very strong midfield, and they're great on the break. So again, the midfield of the Spaniards as well as the midfield of the Dutch are the strong points. And if you look at the Spaniards also, their deep defense have their strongest players in terms of experience. So I think it's going to be a great game. As Marsha says, the first quarter is all about, I'm sussing you, you're sussing me, finding out, testing the waters and trying to figure out who's going to crack. But I think the Dutch have to be careful of the Spaniards on the break, because they can get one opportunity and slip it in.
Yeah.
So the Dutch, they're attacking numbers, but please keep that back door shut.
This is going to be your phrase of the program, isn't it, Cedric? Keep that back door shut. Okay, time is catching up with us, so we need to have a quick look at England and Spain in the men's game. This really possibly couldn't be more closely matched rivals. You know, we've got the history. History says that these are going to be a very, very close game. So, Marsha, I don't know if you want to give me your thoughts on the match to start, or the matches to start with.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really close, like you've said. But I think also with Max, with the Spanish men, it's going to be quite interesting to see how they perform in the Pro League. They've had some practice games against the Dutch, which were quite close a few weeks ago. So I think that, their preparation for this has also been perhaps different, and they've got some new faces as well, new coach, new energy. We know that their experienced players are also really fantastic world-class players. So it's going to be a really exciting game. We know that the Englishmen have got a lot of new faces as well.
Including a new head coach.
Including a new head coach as well. So yeah, there's a lot of newness and excitement on the scene all round. And I think that is going to make it even that much more exciting to watch. I do think, though, that, I do think that the Spanish attack is going to be the powerhouse of the game, and it's about whether the English defense can step up to the challenge. I think that they're going to get tested quite a bit.
Am I right that Spain have actually got a gold medalist on their team now?
Yes, I believe so.
So that was Joaquin Manini?
Yes.
I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly, but won gold with Argentina in 2016, has now moved to Spain following Max, I guess.
Yeah, who knows? But I think it's going to be quite interesting to see. And he's been performing yeah, he's on fire at the moment in the Dutch competition. So quite a goal scoring machine. So yeah, let's see how he fits in the mix with the Spanish men, because they do have an exciting attacking line traditionally. So with an extra exciting attacker from afar, let's see how it goes.
Well, what are your thoughts on the match, Cedric? It's going to be exciting, isn't it?
I think yes, definitely, because they're so evenly number 6 versus number 9 in the world. If you look at the 9 times they played, it's even Stevens, 3 wins, 3 draws, and 3 losses. So basically, and to make matters even more sure, is basically they scored 18 goals apiece. So it's so easy, but England has certain things which they're dogmatic. They have strength on the ball. They have these crash balls with great tip-ins. They are the strength of the English team. They're a dog without a bone, with a bone. They never let it go. They just hold on to it. They fight for everything. Whereas the Spaniards have great 1v1s, elimination skills, and the skill and speed on the counters. I mean, this is incredible. And Marsha talked about the strength of the Spanish team going forward, and that's where the English defense will be tested. But again, you look at it. I like to talk about the coaches, with Zach Jones coming in there, and now Barry Middleton coming. Barry is a brilliant man, and Barry will bring in a lot of stuff there. He's, with his experience of 400 caps plus, incredible amount of thought process will go into that team. Max has, done everything now with the Spaniards. I think it's important that he sets his kind of pattern of play that he wants the Spaniards to play, and I think with kind of attacking flair that the Spaniards have, it'll actually play into Max's kind of plans that he has. So I think this game is going to be tight, really tight. It could just be one on either side, but I would tip the Spaniards.
There we go. So a tip for the Spaniards. Marsha, do you want to put a prediction in there?
Well, I agree with Cedric. I think that the 3 points will go to the Spaniards.
There you go. So I'll go England just to be different.
Yeah.
We'll see. So
not patriotic or anything.
So England men are facing the Spanish men at 11 o'clock Central European time on Friday, the 4th of February, and again at 1 o'clock on Saturday, the 5th of February. The women are playing, Spain women are playing the Netherlands on Friday, the 4th at 1:30, and Saturday, the 5th at 4:30, 16:30. Ali had to leave. I was going to ask her whether she thought that the Canadian team could emulate the World Cup team of 1983, where they won a silver medal. She's not here to answer that. So, Marsha, can you speak on Ali's behalf? How will Canada do at the World Cup?
Why not, Sarah? I mean, anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Exactly. Yeah. The tournament is going to be extremely exciting. I think it's also a short space of time from now until then. And we've seen that when teams have had to peak twice in 1 year, it sometimes is challenging and sometimes it actually pays off. So let's see what happens. I think why not?
I think Cedric's advice to Canada would be shut the back door and then we'll get on with it and win. Perfect.
Yes.
Fortune favors the brave. Fortune favors the brave, and you just go at it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for spending the time talking to us. Do enjoy the hockey. Obviously, wherever in the world you are, you can watch it on TV or watch via the Watch Hockey app or follow the live stream on Twitter. But I'd just like to thank once again Marsha and Cedric and Ali, who's had to go, unfortunately, for spending the time talking to us. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
It was fun.